Okay, so if you look at the schedule here, I want to make one announcement that I did make a change to the week chapter 2 assignments. So instead of doing the 25th, which is next Thursday, I just make it that I do it on the first altogether, because we'll be spending this week and next week on chapter 2. And the reason why is because I think chapter 2 has a lot of information, and it did not, I guess, cover everything in there, in details. So I want to make sure we get everything there first before we move on to the other chapters. Okay, I think that is where most of the meat is in this class. It's just basically the functions, data types, and the different operators. And if you look at in the book, has a long table of different types of operators. The thing about JavaScript is that it is a very tricky language. Well, I should say tricky. It is kind of tricky, but it's also very flexible. For being so flexible, sometimes it's not so good. So you can imagine, like, if you want to write a statement in like 10 different ways, how do you pick which is the best one? And sometimes, by giving too many many options, can lead to all sorts of problems. So some people think that JavaScript is a terrible language, okay, which I agree to some extent, because it's so flexible. And so because of that, then in ES5 or ECMAScript version 5, they make some restrictions in there. So if we'll get to that in I think chapter 5 or so, but they allow us to use now a strict mode, which allows us to always declare a variable with a var keyword or something like that, right? You notice that you don't have to do that in JavaScript using the non-strict or the standard mode. And sometimes they call the term sloppy mode, because you can write script in JavaScript. It looks very sloppy, but it works. Okay, it's very flexible. So it's not really very standardized until ECMAScript 5 came out, and then they made some standard to that. But because so many companies already use the traditional script, you can't just enforce it and makes everything strict, right? So you have to have a transitional phase going to that. So so that's why I want to focus mostly this week and next week on chapter 2. We'll do some basic functions today, and the data types will go over those, and some operators. The next week we'll do a little bit deeper into these functions, because functions can be very tricky in JavaScript, because you can have functions within functions. You can nest functions. That's the thing. With some languages you can't do that. You can't do that in Java, right? Or even Visual Basic. Try to do that and you get an error. But in JavaScript, there's no limit. You can go as deep as you want, and there's some benefits to that. Especially, we'll I guess discuss briefly about what's called the closure. A closure is a very special process in JavaScript that allows you to nest a function instead of another function for that purpose. So that's later on.